The film opens with a man named Kiko out at sea with his crew. They lock a man they have just captured inside a metal cage and lower him into the ocean. It is brutal and merciless. From there, the story shifts to an aging drug lord named Patton, who is undergoing a medical checkup inside a prison hospital. Patton's health is rapidly declining, and because of that, he is released from prison. One of his sons, Tono, comes to pick him up. Before leaving, Patton answers a call from Kiko, his other son. Over the phone, he orders the crew to break the captive man's legs before dumping him into the sea to die. After briefly returning home for treatment, Patton insists that Tono take him to a nursing home instead. Elsewhere, a married couple named Mario and Julia are attending a pregnancy class. When it ends, Julia drops Mario off at the nursing home, where he works as the head nurse. Not long after, Patton arrives at the facility, accompanied by Kiko and Tono. He is about to become a patient there. As head nurse, Mario immediately takes responsibility for Patton's care, though he clearly looks nervous. Before leaving, Tono informs his father that from now on, he will run the drug operation himself without waiting for Patton's approval, since Patton has chosen to stay in a nursing home rather than live at home. Even so, Patton is still welcome to return whenever he wants. Kiko, on the other hand, issues a clear threat. He warns that if Mario shows even the slightest disrespect toward Patton, he will cause chaos in the place. After Kiko and Tono leave, Mario is left standing there, visibly shaken, still unable to believe that Patton is now a patient in his nursing home. At home, he obsessively watches the news about Patton's release. Many people are furious, believing Patton should never have been freed, considering how many lives his drug empire has destroyed. This raises an unsettling question. What is the real connection between Mario and Patton? At that moment, the past quietly catches up with the present. This is eye for an eye. Like he does with other residents, Mario carefully attends to Patton. He walks with him in the garden, helps him eat, bathes him, changes his clothes, and puts him back to bed. In every sense, Mario becomes Patton's personal nurse.
Gracias.
After work, Mario heads to a quiet corner of the city to buy heroin. A man who recognizes him reacts with shock, clearly believing Mario should have been dead. Later, Mario prepares the heroin and injects it into Patton's toe. He claims it is medication that must be administered through the leg, since Patton is having trouble swallowing. Once everything is done, Julia picks Mario up as usual. Mario is visibly restless, fully aware of the danger of what he has just done. Still, he keeps the truth from his wife, and they continue on to a restaurant to meet Julia's parents. The next day, Kiko and Tono visit Patton at the nursing home. They discuss a nearly finalized drug deal involving Colombian and Chinese gangs. Patton listens, unimpressed. He openly doubts that his sons are capable of running the operation without him. Offended and hot-tempered, Kiko reacts angrily and storms off. Tono stays behind, calmly trying to convince his father that they can handle the business on their own. For the next several days, Mario continues caring for Patton, as if nothing has changed. He follows the same routine, quietly injecting heroin into Patton's toe again and again. One day, Mario takes Julia to the hospital for a pregnancy ultrasound, and they learn they are expecting a baby boy. As Mario stares at the screen, his mind drifts back to his youth, remembering a time when he once injected heroin into someone else. With Patton still confined to the nursing home, Kiko and Tono move forward with their drug deal involving the Chinese gang. Unfortunately for them, the operation is already being watched by the police. The deal turns out to be a trap, and Kiko is arrested on the spot. During a staff meeting at the nursing home, each nurse reports on their assigned patients. Mario explains that Patton's condition is getting worse. The paralysis has progressed so far that it even affects Patton's vocal cords, forcing him to learn how to communicate using pictures. That night, after Mario finishes helping Patton eat, the television suddenly shows news of Kiko's arrest. Patton reacts in shock and tries to reach for the remote beside him, but he loses balance and falls out of bed. Mario stands nearby and simply watches, as if waiting for Patton to die. Only when another nurse passes by does Mario finally step in and help lift Patton back onto the bed. As a result of the failed deal, Tono loses everything he owns. The Chinese gang seizes all his assets. With no other option, Tono goes to the nursing home to beg Patton for money to pay Kiko's bail. The response is devastating. Patton completely ignores him and offers nothing but open contempt.
A tomar por el culo.
Meanwhile, Kiko lives in constant fear inside his cell, where Colombian inmates torment him daily over unpaid debts. What hurts him most is realizing that his own father refuses to help. With their money gone, there is nothing left to bargain with. Tono tries to calm his brother, but guards intervene, reminding him that visitors are not allowed to touch prisoners to prevent contraband. Forced to leave, Tono promises himself that he will free Kiko, no matter what it takes. Afterward, Tono returns to the nursing home. He sees his father growing weaker by the day, quietly sitting in the garden with Mario by his side. Once Mario finishes his shift, he heads out to pick up Julia, only to discover that his car tire has been slashed. Moments later, a man named Zepas approaches him and takes him away to meet Tono. Because Patton always listens to Mario's advice as his nurse, Mario is pressured to convince Patton to return home. The threat is clear. If Mario refuses, Julia will be killed. After delivering the warning, Mario is thrown out of the car. Zepas later informs Patton that years ago, he personally saw Mario buying heroin repeatedly at his bar. When Julia returns home, she is upset that Mario never came to pick her up. Inside the house, she finds him sitting alone on his drum set in the storage room. As she watches him, memories of Mario's past surface, showing him as a young band member deeply entangled with drugs. That night, Mario returns to the nursing home and finally reveals his past to Patton. He reflects on his older brother Sergio, who died 25 years earlier from a heroin overdose. That heroin was first sold by Patton himself. After laying everything out, Mario calmly prepares another dose of heroin meant for Patton. Weak and barely able to move, Patton senses what is happening. He struggles to reach the emergency button above him, hoping to call another nurse or a doctor. He realizes Mario is seeking revenge for Sergio's death and intends to make him suffer. Patton is too slow. Mario stops him and injects the heroin anyway, this time directly into Patton's IV. The dose is much higher, chosen deliberately because it is Sergio's birthday. Mario convinces himself that what he is doing is an act of mercy, claiming that the heroin will ease Patton's pain by speeding up his death. He also reveals that he has been poisoning Patton in other ways, secretly adding bleach to his food to cause internal pain and difficulty swallowing. As the injection continues, memories from the past resurface. Sergio is seen convulsing on his bed, and the truth becomes clear. The person who injected Sergio with the fatal dose of heroin was not a dealer or a stranger. It was Mario himself. The next day, Tono continues his efforts to bring his father home. Together with Zepas, he kidnaps a nursing home staff member named Andres and forces him to falsify a report, labeling Patton as mentally unstable so he can be removed quickly. Under constant threats, Andres panics. In his fear, he slips, hits the corner of a table, and dies instantly.
Salí de mi casa. Cago en la puta.
Meanwhile, inside his prison cell, Kiko continues to suffer brutal abuse from Colombian gang members who are still demanding payment for unpaid debts. The following morning, Patton tries to warn another nurse during a routine check. He attempts to point out the heroin Mario has hidden in the cabinet. The nurse fails to understand his gestures, and before anything can be clarified, Mario arrives and the moment is lost. Not long after, Julia comes to the nursing home looking for her husband. This is when she finally learns that the patient Mario has been caring for is Patton, a powerful drug lord. Her expression shifts with fear and concern as she sees Mario sitting with Patton in the garden. She knows how Sergio died and begins to suspect that Mario is planning revenge. Suddenly, Julia is struck by intense pain. Her water breaks without warning. At the same time, Tono visits Kiko in prison once again and is horrified to see how badly his brother has been beaten by the Colombian inmates. Julia is rushed to the hospital with Mario by her side. Not long after, Mario receives a call from Dr. Anna, the physician replacing Andres, who is scheduled to examine Patton. She questions several irregularities in Patton's medical records. Mario deflects the concerns, claiming that some notes were missing because he had been waiting for instructions from Dr. Andres, even though Andres is already dead from the so-called accident at his home. Not long after Julia calms down and falls asleep during her examination, Mario rushes back to the nursing home. Inside Patton's room, Patton is already trying to signal Dr. Anna about something being wrong. When Mario arrives, he is stunned to see two police officers and a notary speaking with the nursing home staff. To avoid suspicion, Mario explains that he only came to check on Patton, claiming that Patton dislikes being treated by unfamiliar caregivers. Once the visitors leave, Mario immediately heads to Patton's room, convinced that Patton has reported his reckless actions of injecting heroin every day. Instead of running away or destroying evidence, Mario makes a far more dangerous choice. He prepares a larger dose of heroin, intending to force an overdose and end Patton's life more quickly. Julia, who is close to giving birth, calls him, but Mario ignores the call, completely consumed by his revenge. Just as Mario is about to inject the heroin into Patton's IV, Dr. Anna suddenly enters the room. She sends Mario home, stating that Patton is stable. A staff member then mentions that Patton's blood sample is already prepared in the lab for testing the next day. Hearing this, Mario panics. He claims he needs to rush back to the hospital to check on Julia, but in reality, he knows the blood test will expose everything. Quietly and carefully, Mario swaps Patton's blood sample with another patient's sample. After that, Mario returns to Patton's room once more. As he injects the heroin, he admits the truth. Years ago, he killed his own brother, Sergio, by giving him an excessive dose of heroin. Sergio had been suffering badly from overdose, and Mario chose to end it. Memories resurface of Mario embracing his mother after Sergio's death. Mario then rushes back to the hospital, arriving just in time to be by Julia's side as she gives birth. At the same time, Tono, still desperate to pay off the Colombian gang to free Kiko and cover legal fines, spots Mario on the road and chases after him. Patton still has not been brought home, and Tono's frustration boils over. What happens next is completely unexpected. Tono is involved in a sudden car accident that instantly kills both him and the driver. Mario, shaken at first, quickly forms a horrifying plan to erase his tracks. Wearing rubber gloves to avoid leaving fingerprints, he presses the syringe he used on Patton into Tono's fingers. His goal is clear. He wants Tono to be framed as the murderer of his own father, with his fingerprints linking him to the syringe. Even more disturbing, Tono briefly regains consciousness after the crash. Mario restrains him, making sure he does not survive. Mario then rushes back to the hospital and manages to stay beside Julia during the delivery. Meanwhile, Patton dies alone in his room at the nursing home, overdosing on heroin. In his final moments, he laughs. At the joint funeral for Patton and Tono, nearly all hospital staff attend, including Mario. Patton's only remaining son, Kiko, is also there. Overwhelmed by stress and completely broken, he blasts loud music and cheers at the graveside. His drug empire is gone, his wealth has been seized, he has been tortured daily in prison, and now both his father and brother are dead. At this point, he has nothing left to lose. After the funeral, Mario is approached by a notary named Alfredo, the same man he briefly crossed paths with at the nursing home. Alfredo invites Mario and Kiko to sit down together to discuss Patton's will. That is when a shocking decision is revealed. Patton has left all of his wealth not to his own children, but to Mario's newborn baby. Mario is stunned and immediately rejects the inheritance. However, legally, he has no right to refuse it. The only one who can decline the fortune is the baby himself, and of course, a newborn cannot make such a decision. Kiko reacts with pure rage. To him, the will is a final insult from his father, and undeniable proof that Mario has taken everything from him. Consumed by anger, Kiko contacts Zeppas and orders him to kill Julia, Mario's wife. In truth, Patton had two main motives behind everything he did. First, he never wanted his wealth to fall into his son's hands, believing they were weak, careless, and unworthy of continuing his power. Second, and far more cruel, he wanted revenge on Mario for injecting heroin into his body every single day. Patton knew he could not harm Mario directly, but he could set off a chain of violence that would do it for him. This is why Patton deliberately spelled out Mario's name to Dr. Anna and summoned a notary to prepare the will. The inheritance was never an act of kindness. It was a weapon, a spark designed to ignite conflict and ensure revenge without Patton ever having to dirty his own hands. As for the two police officers who appeared at the nursing home, they were not there because Patton reported Mario. They were investigating the sudden disappearance of Dr. Andres and questioning the staff. That misunderstanding only heightened the tension and reinforced the illusion that Padin's plan was unfolding perfectly. Even near death, Padin laughed, convinced that everything was already under his control. Meanwhile, Mario begins to sense the danger closing in and rushes home. Along the way, he repeatedly calls Julia, but none of his calls are answered. Things grow worse when road construction forces him to take a longer route. At the same time, Zeppes has already arrived at Mario's house. Kiko's story ends just as violently as it began. With nothing left to lose, he is killed by his enemies inside prison, leaving behind a cycle of violence with no true winner. Desperate, Mario abandons his car and runs the rest of the way home. From a distance, he sees Zeppes' car driving away. When Mario steps inside, the most devastating truth awaits him. Julia has been shot and killed, still holding their baby as she was breastfeeding. This is the moment when the film's core message becomes clear. Revenge never stops with one person. The violence that began with Padin was carried on by Kiko and triggered by Mario, ultimately destroys the most innocent life of all. So the moral of the story is that revenge feels like justice at first, but it keeps growing until it takes away the people who never deserved to be punished, leaving only regret and empty hands.